Well, welcome back. I hope you were well. Today I am going to be speaking to the boys. I began the session previously where I spoke to young girls. Um, I said in the second session that I would pivot and I would address young men. Uh, for today's session, I am being very specific to a particular age group of men, rather, I should say boys, but they are men in waiting. That age range is between 12 and 17. So today's message is addressed to young men between 12 and 17. That the principles or the advice that I'll be sharing applies in any case, irrespective of your age. If you are a lady, listen, critique, comment, and share perhaps if there are disagreements. If you are an older man or even a younger man, please do the same. Um, I certainly hope that the advice is seen for what it is. It's from a place with good intentions. It's been delivered in good faith, and most importantly, the idea behind what I will be sharing is to enable you become the best person that you can be. You have a potential that is not actualized just yet, but you need to be equipped with the skills, the knowledge, but also to be informed of the potential obstacles that could prevent you from reaching your potential and your goals. So let's get things started. I'm talking specifically about success in relationships. So as a young man, success in your relationships. I was raised by a great father, love him to bits. I was raised by a wonderful, loving mother, love her to bits. What I'm about to share with you were things that were never passed to me by the people I loved the most, my parents, partly because things were different when I was growing up. A lot of my learnings came from observation and modeling, both my father and my mother. In any case, if you are a young man or just a man, think about this session as what I would call things I wish my father taught me about women, dating, and relationships. Now, with that said, buckle up. I will speak very directly because I'm speaking to men in waiting, young boys presently, and therefore take this as a conversation between or conversation from one person to the other with love. Now, let's start as follows. I mentioned in the session with the ladies that our peer pressure, our peer group rather, plays a part in what influences our decisions. But there are three other, you might say, associations or groups that also influence our behavior by explicit means or by implicit means. Your peer group, what I will call your social network, your social structure, whether that be social media, the internet, advertising, marketers, they fall within the second group. Your religion, depending on where and how you were raised, if any, will play a part in your, I guess, your core philosophy about life. And then finally, your family. I mentioned also that family and religion are playing a less significant role these days because we have this interconnection by virtue of the internet, social media, and all the digital platforms we have. but your peer group plays a huge role. Now, influence, therefore, determines and controls your core beliefs about relationships and how you would approach girls and women when it comes to dating, courting them, getting into a relationship with them, or even marrying them. Now, as a man, let me start off the top and say as follows. Between 12 and 17, 95% of your time should be focused on your education, your work, your dreams, your goals. Should be focused on yourself, becoming the best person you can be every day, not in the distant future, not someday tomorrow, but each day. 5% of your time, and 5% being the maximum, can be allocated to dating interactions with the opposite sex or someone you find attractive. 5%. Now, what this simply means is that in order for you to be successful in relationships, you do not need to invest 95% of your time. A certain allocation is important, but as a man, there is almost what I call an expectation across all men, across all religions, all histories, all geographies, and time. For men, provision, protection, the priestly duties, and professing your love. 4. Provision, protection, the priestly duties, and professing your love. Number 3 has to do with your ability to be a teacher, to be a visionary, to be someone who inspires the person you love and the people who look up to you, perhaps your family. That is constant. That will always be there. It's built into our DNA. So, as a young boy, between 12 and 17, or even over, one of the questions to keep in mind is, how do I ensure that I am able to perform at the peak potential level with regards to provision, protection, my priestly duties, and professing my love? For the first two, it has everything to do with your ability to be competent, to be the best person you can be educationally, career-wise, and work-wise, but it requires a vision, a dream, a purpose, a goal, a thirst, a desire, discipline. Therefore, what you do with 95% of your time will play a much higher role with regards to how successful you will be during your dating experience. Now, there is one reason for that. There's a concept called hypergamy. It's a simple concept, but what the concept means in principle is that, generally speaking, if you were to put forward a line of women, and let's assume that these women are 100 in number, 95% of those women, if you allow them to choose by their free will, with no force, threat, or coercion, with regards to mating preferences, said simply, choosing a mate, and you lined up 100 men in front of the women, the 95 women will most likely consolidate and find 20% of those men or less to be their preferred choice. Hypergamy simply means women consolidate on the highest caliber of men they can find, morally, intellectually, from a resource point of view, from a loving point of view, in any category. They choose the best they can find. The reason being, in the previous session I said, women pay the highest price with regards to reproduction. And because that price is quite steep, and that price is paid both with the reminder that your life is at stake, but you're investing your time. Women therefore have to choose very carefully who they select as a mate from a reproduction point of view. Therefore, as a young man, 12 to 19, the question is, how does hypergamy apply to you? Well, it simply means she generally wants the most attractive, the most charismatic, the most kind, the most loving, sometimes someone who has a bit of a bad boy attitude, someone who is a go-getter, someone who is perhaps, I hate to say this, emotionally unavailable because he's so busy doing things. Now, what that implies is that for you as a young man, your education matters, your dream matters, your ability to communicate clearly matters, your ability to be a leader matters, your ability to join a sports team, multiple sports team, and be the most celebrated matters. You want to be the rock star in your environment. Therefore, in order to be successful and to be desired, recognizing that women are gatekeepers to their hearts, they are gatekeepers to their bodies, and they are gatekeepers to their womb and who they have sex with. They get to choose. You get chosen. Therefore, you have to be the most attractive you can be. You must become the most competent you can be, and therefore the most desirable you can be in all areas. In other words, you have to be a gentleman. A word that most young men are not inspired to aspire to. You have to be a gentleman who is capable of several feats. A great thinker, someone great in philosophy, someone who understands politics, someone who understands how to fight, bare knuckle, someone who understands weaponry, someone who understands how to speak in a kind way, in a loving way, in a forgiving way, someone who understands sport, plays sport at the elite level, for someone who is emotionally intelligent, who can understand a woman. Women will choose and consolidate on the highest men in that group. So your task as a boy, as a young man, is to move yourself into that select group, the 20% or less. Now, my advice to you is that the 20%, the bottom of the 20% group, is too crowded. As you move up towards the top 5%, you find that there is space. The bottom is always overcrowded. Aspire for the top 5%, which comes back to what I said. If you're aspiring for the top 5%, then 95% of your time has to be focused on yourself, rather than women or relationships or pursuing women. Very important. Now let's start today's session with some ideas. As a man, as a young man, first impressions matter. There is something called your image, your self-image. Your self-image is what you see when you stand in front of the mirror. That is effectively a reflection of the person you are physically. There is also something called your internal image. This is the image that you have in your mind about yourself. There is also something called an outwardly image, or an ethnic image, or you might say an image relating to your sex, like a feminine image or masculine image. Your image is important, especially as a young man. I'd like you to mark it, if you can, somewhere you can see every day. Image is everything. Now, I cannot run down or run through all of the aspects of your self-image or your image, but let me give you 5. A, B, C, D, E, and F. A has to do with your appearance. 18 to 17 is no time for you to dress in a sloppy way. First impressions matter. There's a girl you like, she's attractive. Her mother has to see you. It's all about how the mother perceives you to be. If you show up dressed in a rough manner, well, no one wants their daughters, a daughter meaning someone who is precious and loved, to be with a bum. So, your appearance matters. This means you have to be clean, tidied, well-groomed, unlike how I look right now. You have to be very, very aware of your appearance. You don't have to be self-conscious, so much so that you're always worried about what people think. No, but you have to always be aware of your appearance. We judge first by what we see before people get to know you. You might be a lovely boy, a loving person, but if people perceive you to be perhaps a scum because of how you dress, then your reputation precedes your actual personality. A is appearance. B is your behavior, your mannerisms. Behavior becomes habitual. What we think of and what we see, what we hear, the environment we find ourselves in, controls how we feel. How we feel dictates our actions. Our actions repeated over time becomes habitual. Those habits form our behaviors. Our behaviors determine our outcomes. How you behave with people and amongst people, very important. You have to act in a chivalrous manner, in a gentlemanly manner, in a respectable manner. You must use poise, speak well. Your behavior should be exemplar. People should say, I don't know who James is. And the response should be, he is the well-behaved kid, the one who speaks very well, very kind, very patient with people, never involved in antisocial behavior, is a good sport, is graceful in defeat, is not magnanimous in victory. That's your behavior. Now, C is your communication, your ability to communicate. Let me illustrate. In the few minutes we have been conversing, I would hope that you have noticed that my hands are moving, my head is moving, sometimes my body is moving, sometimes I might move around, rotate the chair, and I do so without sometimes moving my lips. My eyebrows are moving. What you're observing is my body language. If there is one thing I can teach you, I'm still trying to learn this. I wish I knew this early. Sometimes I'm too stiff, sometimes I'm less social, sometimes I'm not connecting with the audience. I'm still learning this, and I am an old man. Don't let the pretty face fool you. Body language and the ability to communicate is something that I wish I was taught how to do very young, because it stays with you. The habit stays with you, and if you haven't developed the ability to communicate fluently in a nice way, to connect with people in a peaceable manner, then it's something you're always trying to catch up with. So communication is important, but more importantly, your body language speaks much louder than what you say with words. You have to learn how to be congruent between what you say and what your body is saying. Your body is speaking every single day and whenever you are in public. Learn how to use your body, how to stand upright, how to sit upright, how to use gestures, how to use your hand, and then learn how to communicate with words. I would like you to master the ability to communicate. Women love good communicators. Your ability to read out a poem or write a poem, memorize the poem, and recite the poem to the lady or the woman you admire without fumbling, stumbling, or getting nervous. Communication requires the ability to control your emotions and focus on the other person without worrying about what they think about you. You have to become at ease in public and amongst the women or the girls that you admire. So we have talked about ABC. A, appearance, B, behavior, C, communication. Now, D is your digital avatar or digital image. 18 to 17, you're certainly into social media, technology, the internet, and all the infrastructure that make our life more interesting, whether that be entertainment or education. You have a digital image. If you are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, if you are on any platform that is connected to the world, that is public or even private, it means that people can see who you are before they meet you. So for example, let's assume I was having a party for my daughter and she came to me and said, I'd like to invite Jake. My first question would be, what is Jake's surname? And where does he live? Now, with that information, I can go on the internet and search for your name and your address. And I would be looking for your digital avatar, what the world says about you and the information you've put out in the public. If it's not a flattering image, I would say to my daughter, I do not like what I see. Now, I might be biased, but I go based on the information that I see. So, whilst you're communicating and interacting on the social media world, remember that what you put out is a representation of you. So ensure that, let me put it in a lovely way, in an old school way. Always remember that the way you should lead your life should be as though there is someone walking around behind you with a camera, capturing all of your misdeeds and behaviors and shenanigans, and sharing those publicly in the local newspaper. Think about how your father would receive such information. Always present yourself in the right way, in a respectable manner. That is D, digital avatar, digital image, digital footprint. E is emotional intelligence. Women want men who are in tune with their feelings. Now, they don't want a crybaby. And I am not suggesting that you should be one of the crybabies or the weak man or the she-man or the B-man or F-men. But women want men who have emotional intelligence. You can regulate your emotions carefully. You can understand how she feels. You can interpret how she feels without her telling you. You're not just stuck on logic. That is emotional intelligence. You can smile, you can laugh. Now, let me disavow a myth. I don't want you crying in front of the girls. Just don't do that. If you want to cry, go look for your boys, go to the back of the corner, find a building where you will never be seen. Imagine that camera person is following you. Wait until you are in a safe space and you can burst out in tears if you have to, but do so with your men and your boys, not in front of women. Despite what they might tell you, do not share such emotions without reason. Now, F, let me bring it to a conclusion. F is your fitness. There is something about a specimen of a young man that is sexy. Broad shoulders, big biceps, thin waist, six-pack. Now, I'm not suggesting you need all of these, but I am just suggesting you should be informed. You should be a piece of art. If people were to see you with your shirt off, they should say, you know, it's like a piece of painting. Now, this means, let me recommend to you, please avoid tattoos. Your body is the temple of the spirit that resides within you, and you only get one body. Now, think about this carefully. Imagine if I said to you that you only get one car. and that car is given to you at 18. And that would be the only car that you would have for the rest of your life. I would imagine that you would, whatever car you chose or selected, that you would take great care. You would wash it, you would clean it, you would check the oils, you would check the battery, you would make sure the engine is running properly, it has the right fuel, it has the right engine oil. You would do all of that because it's important for you to maintain the car knowing fully well that you will not get another one. You take the car for regular checks, make sure it's serviced every 6,000 miles or every 10,000 miles. And sometimes if you hear a funny sound, you would just take the car in to get a health check. Now, in the same manner, you have one body. That is the only body you will get. So please take good care of your fitness. You should be healthy, you should be happy, you should have good well-being. You should move. Get off the couch, get into sports team. I would recommend this. From 12, you should be in some martial arts and combined arts. You have to learn how to fight on your feet, you have to learn how to fight on the floor. You have to understand how to defend yourself and your loved ones. I did that. I did that for many years, still do. It gives you a confidence where you know that you can address any challenge. I chose karate for fighting on my feet, and I chose a combination of wrestling and jiu-jitsu for fighting on the ground. It has served me very well. As a matter of fact, even as a young man, I had an aura of confidence when I started practicing martial arts because I knew I could fight. But it wasn't that I could fight, it was that I knew I could take a punch. And I wouldn't, and I had been trained on how to take that punch. It wasn't about getting into fights. You're taught how to discipline yourself, self-defense, and how to walk away. But you're also taught how to be a force to be reckoned with. So I would recommend the best years between 12 and 18, get into sports, don't just train, sign up to compete national level, international level, which I did. I was proud to represent England at national competitions, European competitions, and world championships. And it was something to be proud of. It gives you this aura of confidence, but also this aura of humility. It gives you this grace. It helps you delay the impulse or the instinct that we have as men, our egos, to get into a fight. It disciplines you into understanding how the power is in walking away or self-control. I have given you A, B, C, D, E, and F of self-image. Powerful. Now, if all you did was get those right, you'll be sought after by the women that you find attractive. Now, let me talk about something else that I think you should know, which is the frame. I don't know what family you come from. I don't know if you've been raised by a traditional family or a family with traditional structures, family structures, or whether you've been raised by a modern structure. If you've been raised in the modern West, there's a very high likelihood that you were raised in a modern way. The reason being, if you go back to some of the videos that I did, when I talked about the various generations, the Grey Generation, the Silent Generation, Baby Boomers, Generation X, Millennials, Generation Y, which is Millennials, Generation Z and Generation A, and I tried to explain how in the West, we have moved away from our great inheritances. And today, most people are being raised either in single-parent families with the primary custodian being the mother, and therefore, most men don't have a concept of what it means to be a man. Or in families where they've been raised with a father there, perhaps it's a family where there's been divorces, there's a second marriage by the mother, third marriage by the father, and therefore you've seen too many people you love come and go. Or it's perhaps one of those egalitarian relationships where your father and mother believe in equality. And your father has been, I guess, even pummeled and beaten to the point where he pees whilst sitting down. Therefore, he has no frame. I feel sorry for you, but my call to adventure to you is you need the masculine frame. You need to accept responsibility. The masculine frame is one that you were born with, and therefore there are responsibilities that come with that. And understanding the male avatar, the archetype of what it means to be a man is important. The role and the motto is a simple one. We never complain, we never explain. We take what life gives to us. We carry that cross we have been given as men, and up the hill to the place of scars we go. We do not complain, we do not explain. It is our, you might say, gift, our calling to be stoic, but also to maintain a frame. These shoulders are built for stress. As a young man, disavow yourself of the possibility that you want to share the pressures that are on your shoulders with a woman. I completely disagree with that. Now, number 3 is similar to what I explained to women in the prior session. I said, the art of war is a fascinating account that people should expose themselves to. The art of war simply means that there is a strategy and a plan for those who want to accomplish great goals. And using the war analogy, it's important to study your enemy. The reason for studying your enemy is so you can understand and anticipate their strategy. If you anticipate their strategy, then you can prepare for their advance and you will be successful. There's also the art of business and the art of relationships. The art of business draws on some of the concepts from the art of war, but modifies it, because in a war, all is fair, and to the victor goes all the spoils. However, in business and relationships, rather than a zero-sum game, it's a positive-sum game. You want to meet the other person's needs based on mutual consent, respect, cooperation, and union. The word is study. You have to study the other party. Businesses have to study their customers and what the customer wants, needs, and they have to anticipate the customer needs in advance and present that to the customers. In relationships, for you to be successful with women, you have to study women, anticipate their needs, and provide those needs to them before she asks you. Very simple. So number 3 is study women. It's not that complicated. I have produced several videos about this. Whilst you're doing the studying, remember, 5% is all you will allocate to relationships and women. Now, the point of all of this is to say and to remind you, the focal position is always to be the best person you can be. See, in order to be a great boyfriend, or to be a great lover, or to be a great husband, or to be someone who is considered to be good for a relationship, there are 2 things to always keep in mind. You have to be capable. That capability comes in various ways. You have to, you need the right level of understanding and awareness and knowledge and wisdom. And you have to be available. If you're dead, you could be a smart dead person, but you're not there to satisfy or meet her needs. If you're 2,000 miles away, fantastic, she might see you on social media, but you're not still there for her. You have to be available, you have to be capable. And the best gift you can give any woman, by your presence, is a happy, healthy, successful version of yourself. You have to be the best person you can be. That's the best gift you give to people. And in many ways, if you go back to the first concept, which is self-image, the way you are presently, A, B, C, D, E, is a representation of what you believe women deserve. Now, let me give you a good example. In my case and in my life, at my age, I still exercise, I still train, both martial arts and other forms of training. I still am very active because I think it's good for myself. My cardiovascular, I'm still trying to improve. Yes, I don't know how long I'll be here, but I'm trying to maintain the body I have. And the reason I'm doing so is because my beloved deserves, I believe she deserves someone who is the best person for her. So I'm doing it for myself. The byproduct is that she gets someone who is perhaps deserving also. In the same way, the best version of yourself is the best key you can give a woman. And remember, the woman is the gatekeeper to her heart, her body, her womb. If you are the best version you can be, she might give you her heart. You have to be available, you have to be capable. And let me talk about something that I think perhaps is at the root of what I call my tenets. I have shared in several sections what I call my tenets. There are a few of them, but I think they are important. At times when I've shared these tenets, I have directed it to men who are 18 years and above. I'll give it to you regardless of age. Some of the concepts will not apply to you presently, but I think I would pray that you burn this into your hearts. I think it will do you great service if you do. In no chronological order, but also, I should say, starting with the first, and I think the most important. Number one, your purpose, your dreams, your goals, they are the most important thing in your life. Your purpose, dreams, and goals come first. You come second. The woman in your life comes a distant third at best. Number two, from 12 up until 18 and over, you should focus 95% of your time, energy, attention, resources on education, work, the dreams you have, the goals you have, your purpose, your vision, and your mission. Invariably, only 5% will be spent on women. Number three, I would like to say to you that between 12 and 17 that you should not be having sex. I would wish, and I speak as a father, I would wish to you that you would abstain, because the consequences, the risks, the costs of getting it wrong is so huge. You can burn your entire potential simply by a few minutes, few seconds of pleasure done wrong. But it would be naive and foolish of me to assume that all young men between 12 and 17 are virgins. I hope so, but it would be wrong of me to assume that most are. I would believe that many are not. Therefore, here is perhaps an advice that I can give you. Do not have sex without protection, whatever the temptation. Do not have sex without male protection. Do not trust a woman when she says she has female protection or contraception. Condoms are a must. They are 95% effective. They are a must. You must always wear condoms. It's also important for you to ensure that the woman is also on some form, or that she's firmly on some form of birth control consistently. if you are sexually active. It only takes one, and something goes wrong, and suddenly you are now a teenage father, which means all those dreams, all those goals, all those aspirations, all the visions will be burned on the altar of 2 minutes of ejaculation. Now, this brings me to a point, which is that the male desire, the desire you have as a young man for sex or to ejaculate, is very powerful. Most men will steal, kill, loot, destroy, lie, simply because they want the touch of a woman, or they want to experience the touch of a woman. You must learn to control those urges. The same energy that can be directed to sex can be redirected towards creativity and something more positive. No sex without condoms, and no sex without protection on both sides. Number 4, do not, irrespective of the temptation, move in, live with a woman before age 30, preferably 35. No marriage until 35, as a minimum. The reason being, men do not mature fast enough. Young men, hear me and hear me well. 12 to 17, we can give you a pass. But what you do in those years determine whether you move to the next stage. 18 to 22, education, university. 23 to 27, another 5 years. You're working for a company, you're laboring hard, you're learning, you're studying, you're disciplining yourself. You need roughly 10,000 years to master something in a deliberate fashion. 10,000 years is 5 years. So from 23, 5 years takes you to 28. You've been studying, you've been working hard, you become good at something. But men, generally speaking, we like to try things. We might move companies, we might try different professions. So we allow an extra 1 year, 20%, in this case, 10% of the 5 years, or around 20%, whatever that might be, which is an extra year. That gets you to 29. We allow you 1 year extra to allow for travels and seeing the world. That gets you to 30. At 30, you are proficient in something. You have a skill, you have a talent, you have some financial independence because you've been working for 5 years. But you are still not a full-fledged man. You do not have the frame, the avatar of a man. And here's a good reason. You have been successful. You have some financial independence. You have been creative. You have labored and you've been an apprentice under someone, and you've perhaps become a master in a particular trade or profession, but you haven't failed. Avoid the attraction of a relationship, because when done too early and when you haven't failed as a man, you will make mistakes further down in the relationship. You need time to fail. 30 to 35 is your time to fail. Start a business, pursue that purpose or drive you have. That is not a job. Pursue different entrepreneurial pathways. Get into different things. Fail in life. Because when we succeed, we tend to celebrate. When we fail, we tend to ponder, we reflect. Failure plus reflection plus introspection always leads to progress. The constant growth and improvement only comes if you reflect and introspect on your actions. Failure, therefore, is the pathway to long-term success. As a man, in order for you to be the right support system for the woman as you transition into long-term relationships, is you need to be able to withstand, which is where the shoulders come in. You need to withstand the pressures that life will throw your way. But more importantly, remember what I said: provision, protection, priest. Protection, you You've got your martial arts, you can fight, you can box. Number two, provision. You've been working, done your 10,000 hours, you're mastering something, you're being paid well, so you can provide and you can protect. But you cannot you cannot profess the love you have. Why? Because that comes from you might even say the hunter-gatherer stage of our lives, from our ancestors. Professing your love is intrinsically connected to your ability to communicate your journey, your struggles. Back in the day, we went out into the wilderness and sometimes we had to fight lions and several adversaries, sometimes other tribes, to bring home the bacon. Today, failure is how you achieve that. The fact that you can draw on several things so that when life comes at the family, you are not overwhelmed because you haven't experienced pressure, push, and you haven't experienced, you might say, uncertainty. You need to fail. So wait until 35 before marriage. Don't get in love at 17 and decide you're running away with your loved one. It will not work. It never works. It always ends badly for you, the man, and for the woman. So take those tenets. Now, I should say something also about it. Perhaps I'll avoid that for younger men. Take those tenets and embody those tenets in yourself. Now let me move to another topic that I think is important for young boys. I have talked about several things. Your image, I've talked about being your best self, I've talked about remembering the tenets of life, I've talked about learning and studying women. Let me talk about attitude. There is an attitude you need for successful relationships as a younger man, but also as an older man. But it's important the foundations are laid between 12 particularly, and even earlier, between 12 and 17. You need to be kind, you need to be charming, you need to be respectful, you need to be witty, you need to be chivalrous, you need to be a gentleman, you need to be fun, intelligent, you need to be a good storyteller, you need to be forgiving in your approach. All of those qualities affect your attitude and also affect the people you attract into your life and the people who are attracted to you. If you can make her mother fall in love with you, she will fall in love with you. And all of those qualities are perceived and noted very quickly by mothers. This brings me to perhaps the most important part of my teachings to you as men. You need to learn the word no and what it means. No means no. You have to understand when a woman says no, she means no. But most women do not express no explicitly, but they do so implicitly through their body language. So you have to get skilled at a woman's body language to try to understand what she may be trying to communicate, but does not know how to, for fear that she may lose you. Never force a woman into doing what she does not want to do. You should always wait to hear yes. And you should be the guide. Always respect the boundaries women set, that girls set, and always do things that will not make your mother disappointed. No for a woman means no. Respect those boundaries. Many a times, young boys, we objectify women, and this perhaps is the next point I should make. There's a concept called the prey and the predator. If you're a young man between 12 and 17, there's a possibility that you are into games, video games. Now, I mentioned in yesterday's session that 10 billion hours of video gaming takes place every day. 10 billion hours. The video games have changed. They've gone from Tetris to Super Mario, the Mario Brothers, to Mortal Kombat and to Street Fighter, and then evolved into the newer ones where it's all about accessories and shooting people and kicking people and being this superhero, Call of Duty, and all of that with guns. The video games that young men like are calculated to see things as objects and things either as villains or objects to be eliminated, a prize to be won, almost like a predatory process where you're looking for things to hunt. If you're not careful, when you combine that with the fact that social media has become so huge, and most young girls are on social media and objectifying themselves, it's not unusual for men to be addicted as a result of porn to the idea that women are simply sex objects and that you can use women however you want and toss them away. I do not approve of that behavior. You have to be a gentleman. You have to learn how to respect women, see them as human beings, see them as valuable parts of society, and cherish and protect a woman's both her purity, her chastity, her presence. No means no. Never cross that boundary, whether spoken overtly or covertly. You have to respect a woman's boundaries. And always, always err on the side of caution. It's better not to engage too fast than to engage too fast and cause hurt. Keep in mind, women are not objects that you should objectify, especially at that age. Irrespective of what you see on Instagram or porn or OnlyFans or whatever social platform, think about your mother always and say, how did father and how would father have treated my mother? He would have been loving, kind, respectful. He would have applied romance over sex. In conclusion, don't let sex drive you. I would recommend to young men between 12 and 17, please avoid porn completely. I don't care how difficult it might be. I cannot tell you how negative it can be over the long term. It destroys your experiences with women. It destroys your mind. It destroys your intelligence. It destroys your focus. It's just awful. The process and what happens to you, your psyche, is just destroyed. Please avoid porn. Despite the peer pressure, always remember the person on the other side could be your sister, could be your mom, could be your friend. Do not participate in the objectification of women. Now, I hope this has been useful. I have given you a lot. If you follow these principles, then success is inevitable. If you avoid applying these principles, then you introduce the possibility of failure in your relationships. Now, I hope that this has been of some value.